Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. Today we're shooting a video to show you how to do our Hertz Stage 4 install on your Harley with factory GT or GTS radio. Specifically, we're going to do a step-by-step install with a Harley Roadglide. This is our Stage 4, which is going to come with 6x9s and 6.5s and a completely pre-wired Hertz HMP 4D amplifier ready to go. So hang out with us, I'll go over some more details and we'll show you how to do it shortly. Alright, so we're going to do things a little different today. I've got my brother Robbie here and I want to preface this and tell you that he has never done this before. And that's exactly why we're having him do it, because I want to walk step by step as if you were here and show you how to do this install on your Harley. I got to give you a little background. He's an excellent mechanic, very mechanically minded, and helps me very regularly do our marine installs on boats. He's just never done a road glide or street glide before. So let's talk about what we're going to put in. We've got our pre-wired, pre-mounted Hertz HMP 4D that is set up for a GT or GTS factory radio. We're going to flash the radio in this bike and correct its awful EQ curve. But by doing that, we're not going to need a DSP to get excellent results out of our audio system. We're also going to use a set of Hertz SX165 Neo front speakers. We're going to install a cut kit with our Hertz SX690 Neo rear 6x9s. So we're going to show you step by step how to get that rear wire into the back, how to cut it out, how to get all this done, show you how easy it is, and show you how a first timer can get it knocked out. Alright, so real quickly I want to go over the list of tools you're going to need to do this on your own. Most of the time we recommend using hand tools because we don't want it to get away and scratch paint somewhere. We're going to be using a Phillips screwdriver to take the screws off around the top of the windshield. We're going to use a T25 Torx driver to do the fairing Torx bolts, the ones that are behind the speaker grills, the ones that are also on the lower portion. We're also going to be using an Allen head tool. It is a 3/16. This will take the bolts out to hold the radio, side marker lights, headlight, and our speaker pods all out with this one tool. You're also going to need a 13mm. You can do this on a hand ratchet, or we're going to use it on a battery ratchet to remove the 4 bolts on the gas tank and the 2 at the battery tray as well. And last but not least, we're going to do a cut kit. So you're going to need a saw. We use a one-handed sawzall with a jigsaw blade. You can also use a jigsaw. There are several Dremel options that would work as well. We recommend something that you have good control over because we don't want to mess up and cut something wrong. Also, you're going to need a tube of clear 100% silicone because when you sandwich this cut kit together, we want to make sure it's watertight. So if you've got that list of tools, it should be all that you need to get this done. All right, so first step, I'm going to have Robbie remove our speaker grills to access the T27 Torx that are underneath it. Now, I forgot to mention in our tool list, this non-marring tool, it's just a tool that's used to remove panels, and we want to make sure it's plastic so it doesn't scratch our paint. And I did say T27, but we're going to use a T25 because that same one will remove both these and the lowers, and these are never tight enough to need the exact size. All right. So let's wait and do those last. I like doing those last because it keeps the fairing from falling off. Go ahead and do the bottom one on each side. So you're going to see there are 2 Torx bits on each side of your lower fairing. You're only going to take the bottom one out. The second one up doesn't actually hold the fairing together. All right, next we're going to take our 3/16 Allen. We're going to remove the screws on each side that are holding your marker light in. So if you weren't doing an amplifier, you can actually change the speakers right now. But we're going to go ahead and do the amp, flash the radio, and change out the speakers. So we're going to loosen all of our Phillips screws across the windshield. Once you get those loose, you can go ahead and remove the windshield, because if you just take them out, you may risk dropping it. All right, so once they're loose, the windshield will just lift up and out. Go ahead and take those the rest of the way out now. And when we're done, I want you to comment and decide, do you think Robbie's my little brother or my big brother? All right, so he's took the 4 screws out. Now, if you'll grab right underneath where the vent is and just lift up, there's a couple quick push clips that are holding us in. It's gonna take a little force. You're gonna think you're gonna break it. There you go. You got it. Now, on each side, you're gonna see some connectors right above those speaker pods. If you unplug those, that goes down to our marker light and turn signal on each side. All right, so all we have left now is remove those on each side of the speakers. I'll hold the fairing while you do that. So at this point, all of our bolts are out. The fairing is just going to slide forward. I'll go ahead and set it to the side for you, Ron. All right, so at this point, I want to go ahead and flash the radio because I never want to get to the end and not have the radio flashed. So that's going to be our next step. All right, so once your software is in and updated, we're going to click up here on the Centurion tab. That's going to bring up another tab that's going to ask you to select that you're okay with all of the rules. Here it is. You're going to accept that any damage is on you, and you need to be trained and professional to do this. We'll call this training. All right, so our bike has got the ignition on. We're plugged into the data port, and here you see our radio speaker configuration is what's going to come up. All right, so once this screen pops up, you're going to be under infotainment and radio, and then you're going to be under speaker configuration. Under speaker configuration, there are going to be a lot of options on flashing this. You got all these different manufacturers, Sounds, Rockford, Kicker, and so on. But we're going to be on default. That's going to be a factory Harley flash. Again, your Harley dealership cannot do this. We're going to go down to our 2014 and newer. This is a 2020 that we're working on. And I want you to select the 6-speaker upper, lower, and rear pod flash, or upper lower saddlebag flash. It's the 2-amp flash. Once you've selected this, you're going to select this hand. It's going to tell you that it's connecting. Here it's eventually going to say setting, and then it's going to say pass once it's done. All right, so it's setting, which means it's flashing currently. All right, so now we've passed. We're going to cycle our ignition off for 13 seconds. All right, so we waited 13 seconds, cycled the ignition. We're going to hit OK. Now, there are so many options here. I don't want you to get confused. At Volunteer Audio, we've already went through all of these. We've already found the best one for what you're doing, and we've already preset your amplifiers for this flash. If you use a Kicker flash, a Rockford flash, a Sounds flash, they don't have a flat EQ. They've all changed the way their EQ is set up for their speakers. And in most cases, we find there's actually way too much bass being driven to the rear speakers, which causes them to distort at high volume. On the factory flashes, if you pick one of the other options, you may find that you have a flash, and this is the same with some of the name brand flashes as well, that when you start the bike, it's a different EQ than when you're sitting still. They do this to try to make it sound better while it's sitting at the audio shop or the dealership or wherever when you first listen to it. And when you go down the road, it takes all the bass out. We don't want that. We've tuned our system to sound the best it can sitting still or going down the road. So this is not dependent on if the engine's running, and we don't have to worry about having something that has too much bass in the back. When you select the 6-speaker flash, it's also going to turn on the rear speaker outputs. So you don't have to go and do that separately. Now you will, anytime you use a boom flash, which is what we're doing here, from the factory, fader was set digitally, meaning when you faded the radio, it turned the gains up and down on the amplifier, front and rear, instead of changing the outputs of the radio. So we're going to have a fixed output of the radio. You're no longer going to have fader. It's going to show it, it just isn't going to work. And we set our amplifier so that you have a little bit more out of the rear speakers to even that out when you tell us you're doing a 4-speaker kit. So one other thing we want to do while we're in here, go ahead and go to Audio Outputs and Nav, Enable, Disable. And if you got a GTS radio, if you got a GT radio, skip this step. But if you have the newer GTS radio, click on the Bluetooth, WIM, Apple CarPlay, click WIM, and hit Enable. When you do that, it's going to turn on the Apple CarPlay inside the radio. So when you do this rental of this tool, you're not only going to flash and turn on your radio to the best EQ for your audio system, we're also going to gain Apple CarPlay without a jumper in place, without having to plug in a headset. So you'll see this is going to say setting, and then it's going to say pass as well. You want to do this while you have it plugged in because the rental tool has one license. You can do this one time. Once that says pass, same thing, a 13-second ignition cycle. All right, so when you see this says pass, it's done. You don't have to worry about did it take. It won't give you that message if the vehicle or the Harley did not get flashed. So we're going to hit OK, and we're done with the flash process. We're going to put our computer up and get back to putting the system in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start disassembly inside the fairing to get ready to put our amp in. So the radio's already flashed. So Robbie, go ahead and remove our 4 bolts and the electrical connectors from the back of the radio. Now this can be done without removing the radio, but this is going to give us a little bit more visibility of what we're doing while we're putting our amp in. At the very least, if you decide to leave the radio in, you need to take all of the radio bolts and back those out enough that they clear the amp plate as you slide it in place. All right, I'll take those screws. All right, let's go ahead and unplug our electrical connectors. All right, so we're going to unplug our GPS antenna. It's got a small tab on the bottom of it. And we have our AM/FM antenna. Again, there's a tab on the bottom you push up on. Next, we'll unplug the USB. It's got a button on the top of it. All right, heard it release. Now the main radio connector is a flip style latch. It rotates around. So you'll push a button and then rotate the latch to release it. All right, so now that it's undone, we'll go ahead and lift the radio out. We'll set it over to the side for now.
Straight up.
Yep, just come straight up with it. All right. All right, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove our headlight. So we're going to take a panel removal tool again, and we're going to unclip the stuff that's hooked to the top of the headlight. There's just 2 clips here. If you want to do that silver one, all the rest will be undone. so using the same Allen tool that we just took the radio out, there's going to be 2 top headlight bolts and 2 bottom ones. So take those out. All right, so just 2 on the bottom now. So if you have a factory headlight, there's only going to be 1 plug-in on the back of the headlight. If it's an aftermarket with turn signals built in, they're going to actually have wires that run up and you'll have to unplug from the upper connectors. This one appears to be a stock headlight, at least one without turn signals. You want to hand me your bolts. Just slide the headlight out, and then it's got 1 plug-in in it. All right, so we'll set that to the side as well. All right, so now the next step is we're going to unplug everything, go into the speaker pods, and go ahead and take the speaker pods off the motorcycle. So that's going to be Allen head tools. There's going to be 2 at the top on each side, and there'll be 3 around the perimeter. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. You'll have a lot better view from your angle. All right, Robbie, so now before you take the last one out, let's go ahead and unhook all of our electrical connectors and a couple of push clips. So you'll see that the cigarette lighter's actually got a little clip holding to the front of the speaker pod. We'll need to snap that out. Some of these, a metal tool would be better, but we're still using that non-marring tool. All right. Yes. Now there's a speaker plug-in we'll need to unplug.
Disconnect it.
All right, so now we'll take our last bolt out. Try out the front. You got it?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to set that over on our table. So this particular bike has Boom Stage 1 speakers in it. It did not have the factory Boom amplifier. So let's do the same thing on the other side.
Go ahead and take wire those.
On this side, because we have an antenna on it, we're going to need to cut these zip ties loose. Be careful not to cut your antenna. All the bolts that hold the speaker pods in are the same length. So we'll set this one over to the side. All right, next step, let's go ahead and put our speakers in our pods. All right, so Robbie's going to remove our 4 Torx T25 screws holding our factory speaker in. Now again, the actual speaker installation could be done without removing the pods, but we took the pods off so we'd have easier access to our amplifier bolts for the mounting plate. All right, so like in some of our previous videos, if you've watched them, the black large connector is our negative. The smaller clear connector is the positive. All right, so we see this speaker. I want to show you all something that a lot of people don't know. So this is a Harley Boom Audio Stage 1 speaker. If you get right between these terminals, you'll see a Rockford Fosgate logo. Rockford Fosgate actually made the factory Harley speakers from 14 to, the 22s now they're actually calling it Rockford. So if you've got Boom Stage 1 or Stage 2, the speakers were actually made by Rockford Fosgate. And we're unhappy with these, so we're going to Hertz. All right, so we're going to Robbie's taking a pair of pliers and he's slightly crimping the connectors a little tighter to make sure they don't come unplugged in the future before he puts those new Neo speakers in. So you'll notice these are the exact size of the factory speaker as far as how they mount. You'll want to use the terminals on this side. So the exact size is the factory hole. They even have a hole in place where from the factory there's a little plastic nipple that sticks out to align the speaker. And it even has a provision for that. These are direct drop-in waterproof replacements. Now you see Robbie's putting the speaker in and he's putting it where the Hertz logo is correct for the way the pod's going to go in. You can see that some through the grill. I can't stand it when I look and somebody's put a speaker in sideways. All right, as you see, he started each one of the screws first. Now he's going over and tightening them all the way up. That's always the best practice to get them all started before you tighten any of them down. All right, so Robbie's going to repeat this process on the other pod, and then we're going to move to the front. We're going to mount the amplifier. All right, so this particular bike has a wireless headset interface module known as a WIM installed. Robbie's going to go ahead and remove the two 10mm bolts. That's going to give us better access to put our amp in. All right, so we're ready to feed our amplifier that's already on our Roadglide plate up in where it goes. So it's going to mount right underneath the radio. The more squared off end goes toward the face of the radio, toward the front. This thing's a very tight fit, so you end up having to kind of wiggle it in place. All right, so it's in. Next, there's two screws on each of the outer perimeters that get screwed in. Here are your screws, right? Give you two at a time. Can you see, is it lined up?
Yes, sir.
It's kind of like everything else. Kind of get them all started and run most of the way in and then tighten them at the end.
Dropped one down.
All right, use this one. I'll get that one here in a second.
one's a little tricky to get to because of the gauge.
Yeah, there's just enough room. So sometimes this comes with Phillips screws, sometimes it comes with 11mm bolts. I actually prefer the bolts. But it seems like the manufacturer of the amp plate has decided that Phillips screws are a better idea.
Trying to get it to start straight.
Yeah, always make sure you start that bolt straight so it easily goes in.
Yeah, I need to come down some.
Come down. Is that better?
Oh, come in between there. Right. Start. Let's cut this one.
All right, we're started.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's come up a little.
All right, we'll lift up on it.
There it is.
So this amp is mounted in the same place that the Boom amplifiers or even the Rockford amplifiers by Harley mount. So we're using the factory provisions. Those factory holes are the same place that their amp plate would mount. In every case, we try to use either factory Harley style harnessing or factory mounting positions so there's no modification done to your bike. All right, so Robbie's got all 4 bolts in. He's now going to tighten them all the way up. Make sure they're really tight. This is a Harley. If they're not really tight, they're going to vibrate out later. You could put some blue Loctite on it if you're worried about it. All right, so after your amplifier is mounted and it's pre-wired, we have our power and ground that's going to run to our battery here that we're going to route down the backbone here in a minute after we take our gas tank off. We also have our input and output harness. This thing is really nice because it's just going to plug into the factory harness and plug into the factory radio. The only thing we have to connect that's not been connected yet is we have our amp turn-on wire. Now it's going to come with a little red, I think they call it a posi lock connector, and we're going to want to go to one of the connectors in the fairing. There's one on either side. One's going to the cigarette lighter on the other side. This side is an open accessory port. We just grab the purple wire with the blue stripe and we put our posi lock connector on it and connect it. So we get that and we'll go through that process. All right, so we're going to take this and Robbie's actually just cut this sheathing back just a little bit so we can get to the wire. There's a black end on these posi lock connectors. The black end is going to go around your wire. So just completely unscrew that out and stick it around. So the wire is actually in a channel on the connector. He's going to screw the red part on it now, and as he does that, it's going to pierce the connector, or pierce the wire, while tightening down on it.
Yeah.
Now most of the time when we ship this, this is already stripped back and the connector's already on the end. But we're going to go ahead and strip the end. The copper wire portion just gets stuck in the hole, so you loosen it, stick the wire in. While it's firmly being pressed in, you tighten that screw back down and it locks it in and connects it to that factory wire. All right, so at this point, I'm going to have Robbie go ahead and reinstall both of our speaker pods and put our radio back in. All right, so Robbie has our radio and our outer pods back installed. He's replugged in our speakers on each side just to the factory. That's what you want to do. He's already plugged in the first part of the T-harness into the radio. But our next step is we're going to pull our power and ground back to the battery. And we're also going to add what's called our backbone harness, or our rear speaker extension harness. So Harley from the factory has put a rear speaker harness in the fairing. It's going to have a little rubber block off in it. You're going to remove that block off and plug in the harness that we send you. Now, you're only going to get this harness if you buy it to add on to a 2-speaker kit, or if you order a 4-speaker or larger kit, it's going to come in it. So once that's plugged in, we're going to route that and the power back down the backbone. But the next step is we've got to get our gas tank off. So let's move around and get that removed. All right, so we're ready to pull the gas tank. Robbie's going to go ahead and pull our fuel vent up from the side of the frame rail. It's got one zip tie holding it down on the side, so you're going to fish it out of that zip tie. Sometimes those are tighter than others. Let me help you here. So down here on the side is the zip tie. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of there. Pull it on up. All right, we're going to disconnect our fuel sending unit and our fuel return. Sending unit's this gray plug. All right, now that he has those done, I'm going to go ahead and have him unbolt the gas tank. You're going to have two 13mm bolts at the rear of the tank. Now while you're here and you've got your tool out, go ahead and remove the 2 bolts at the rear of our battery tray on each side. We're going to be accessing that in just a few minutes. All right, so on each side of the front of the gas tank, normally there's a little rubber cover, and then there's 2 more bolts, so one on each side. All right, so next we're going to disconnect our fuel line from the bottom of the gas tanks. Come over here and we'll show you how we do that. All right, so normally we put a rag in place because when you disconnect the fuel line, a few drops are going to come out. So Robbie's going to grab a hold, he's going to move the silver sleeve upward. And at the same time, once he does that, he's going to pull the fuel line down. All right, now your fuel's disconnected. It doesn't matter if you have a full tank or an empty tank. It has a little valve in there that shuts the fuel flow off, so no fuel is going to continue to leak out. We're ready to pick our gas tank up. All right, so Robbie's got our gas tank off. Next, he's going to remove the cover on what we call the backbone. This is where all the wiring runs in the bike. There's a piece of Tessa tape, top and bottom, and a zip tie that we're going to have to cut. So we're going to cut the tie, cut both sides of the tape, and then he's going to start removing it. Oh, 3 pieces of tape.
Yes, okay.
I'll cut the zip tie.
Yep, zip tie next. Is that right? This piece up.
Here's a small screwdriver. So there's a bunch of little plastic, just clips down the side that as you release them, it's going to allow you to get the cover off. You want to start on one end or the other. All right, there are a few clips right around the front edge. They're probably still holding you in place.
Yeah, you sure are.
All right, once you get one end started, it gets a lot easier to get it removed. So let's slide your brake lines out of the side of that. There you go. All right, so we've got our cover off, and you'll see the pathway in which we're going to run both our rear extension, our backbone speaker harness, as well as our power harness. And we've got a lot better view now of where we're going to run our wire through. All right, so now we're going to run our rear speaker extension and our power and ground wire to the back of the bike. If you go down the right side, just on this side, follow the factory harness. We're going to fish it through and get it to our backbone. Hold on one second, Rob. Let's get this wire to the top. We're going to run it on top of that factory harness. All right, here we go. All right, so we pulled our power wire through. Next is that rear speaker extension. Yeah, let me see if I can get it. We've got a couple ABS lines we want to get in the right place around. I saw it and then it disappeared. Come on through. All right, let's pull the excess up this way. All right, so pull your excess to the backbone, then go ahead and wrap some zip ties along that factory harness, holding that wire in place. So at this point, our wire is zip tied. Robbie's gonna go ahead and lay it in this trough. You don't have to really zip tie it through here, so just get it where it fits and snap your cover back on. Make sure you don't leave any of the factory wiring laying out or hanging out the sides of it. We come behind a lot of installs that people have either done themselves or paid to have done, where people don't want to go through the process of taking a gas tank off. And I think you'll find out that it's not a hard process to get it off, and much, much better to go ahead and run it like the factory did. So you may actually put your hand underneath the bottom portion of it in some places to help it snap in. Like here, just put your hand under it and snap down.
Gotcha. Brake lines back where they go.
Okay, and you've got that little plastic piece laying there. So I'm put it back where it goes. All right, so now we're going to carry our gas tank back over and put it on. All right, Robbie has set our gas tank back in place. He's now going to put our 4 bolts back in. He's going to start each one and then tighten them once they're all started. All right, let's remake all those other connections. I'll help you feed the vent down. Just going to feed it right down through here. Hold on, I got it. And pull it on through. Don't forget to hook up your fuel gauge and your vent and your return. All right, Robbie's hooking up our fuel feed line. Don't forget to do that or the bike won't start. All right, so we're getting really close to being done. The only thing left now is we're going to pull the cover off the battery box and connect our power and ground to the battery. And then we've got to do our rear speakers. So we're on the home stretch. All right, so Robbie's going to remove the stuff off the top of this battery cover. There's a couple connectors here that we just unplug and set to the side. Going to take your ECM and unsnap it. There's a snap on each side. Just kind of set it out of the way. Then you've got a lighting connector, and then you also have your fuel sender. We're just going to unhook those. Now this tray's got a little ear that wraps around the front of the battery, so if you slide the tray forward and then pull up, it's going to come up and out of your way. All right, so grab right down here and lift forward like that. Yep. So now we have access to hook our battery up. We're just going to need a large Phillips screwdriver. That number 2 actually worked. So connect your negative first. Now you want to keep your connectors pointed toward the front of the bike so your battery tray cover will go back on afterwards. So when you receive the kit from us, the fuse is already installed in the fuse holder, and there are 2 zip ties wrapped around it to make sure it doesn't come open. It is a waterproof motorcycle fuse holder, and we use a mini wafer fuse that is bolted inside. So once that's done, you're just going to take these leads and you're going to feed them in front, right down in this open area there is. Now there's quite a bit of area right here in front of the battery. Once we do our rear speakers, we'll tuck the excess of this back in there afterwards. But for now, we're going to go ahead and put our battery cover back on. You want to start by lipping the front edge over that metal tab. Make sure your wire's here to the side. You'll notice it actually grabs both sides of the battery. So you'll make sure that those are going straight down as well, like back here. All right, we'll just push on down. That front edge is what's holding you. So it's a pretty tight fit. Once you get it there, good deal. So now we can put our bolts back in the back of our battery tray. Let's go ahead and bolt it in. All right, so if you'll snap everything back in place except for that rear harness.
These on?
Yep, they're actually labeled black and gray as to where they go.
Not middle.
All right, so we'll just bring this back up here and leave it here. Now, we lay everything out on a table, so if we forget anything, we remember to put it back on. We've got these little rubber caps to go on the front of the gas tank. All right, so now let's move back up to the front. We're going to finish connecting the amp and do a little bit of wire management before we get to the rear speakers. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go over this part. Robbie's not done it before and we haven't kind of went through it. So we're going to connect our main harness back up. Make sure you get it correctly as far as how it's located. Snap it around. Well, we've got quite a bit of wire in here that we want to make sure is not in the way when we put our headlight in. We have a large area under the amplifier behind the headlight as well as to the side here. So we're going to take this wire and we're going to feed it in this open area. Once you get it up in here, we're going to put some zip ties around it to hold it where it goes. But I also want to locate the other wiring up and over this headlight tab, so it's actually behind it. And I'm going to feed it up under the amplifier and put some zip ties in place to hold it. This way, all this wiring is going to be out of the way when we go to put our headlight in. And it's going to be really clean looking if we ever look at this at the end, if you ever take the fairing back off. And we have left our WIM off so you can see better. We're going to bolt it in last. I know it's kind of hard to see what's going on up in here, but I'm just zip tying this harness around the factory harnesses that are already up in here, just to make sure that it stays out of the way. All right, so where we push this back up here, I'm going to find another factory harness that we can tie it to. And remember, when you're done, the silver portion is going to go back on the back of your headlight. So you want to make sure it still has enough room to do that. Figure out exactly where we're going to do this. We got a bad zip tie. Let's get another one. That one didn't have anything to grab the teeth. All right, so we've left enough room. This should go to the top of the headlight, snap back in when we're done. But also there's nothing hanging down. It looks like it's factory installed. Now I'm gonna go ahead, when we send it to you, we've already set the amp gains for your radio. And the way we do that is every time that we do an install, we use a DD1, and it's a distortion detector, and we set all the gains and we document where they're at. Now this is a process I do on every install. And I do that because if there's ever a variation in the way that the amplifier is built, I want to be the first one to know it. We do a lot of installs. So I'm going to set it, document it again, and we continually compare those notes to make sure that we have it set properly for your radio. All right, so Robbie's going to go ahead and reinstall our WIM back in factory location. All right, so at this point, we're going to start on the rear speakers. You could put the fairing on if you bought it from us because I've already preset everything. But we're going to wait because I'm going to do those settings after we get the rear speakers installed. So next up, we're going to show you how to do the cut kit and install the back speakers. All right, so before we do our cut kits, we're going to go ahead and get this tour pack out of the way. This one's an added on. It doesn't have a harness. If it was factory, there would be a harness you would need to unplug. We're going to make a little more room, make sure our saw doesn't get into this at any point. All right, so we're watching Robbie do this instead of watching me. You've probably seen me do it in previous videos. First step we're going to do for our cut kits is we're going to remove the screw to our handle. All right, so he's going to remove the screw, but he's going to leave the handle in place until he latches the lid back. So just hold some inward pressure on the handle as you open it. Open the handle. Now it's open, it should shut. Latch it back, now pull your handle out.
There you go.
All right, so our template, as you notice, can't go on with that handle in place. But we don't want to put this on and cut because then it could vibrate, maybe cause a scratch. So Robbie's going to go ahead and take our painter's tape and he's going to tape off the whole top of this lid. We're just going to do about the front 3/4. All right, so Robbie has put painter's tape on the lid everywhere that this template's going to go. And I wanted to go over the hardware that comes in the bag real quick. So we're going to have 3 different screws in the bag. You're going to have some that have a sharp point on them and they're beveled. These are the ones that hold the template to the bag. We have 8 short screws that are going to hold the 2 sides of the cut kit together, and you're going to have 8 longer screws which actually hold the speaker to the cut kit. I just want to make sure we know what each one of the screws is going to do. Robbie's going to find exactly where this template goes and screw it to the lid. So what you want to do is you're going to want to work it back and forth, push it all the way down, make sure it's good and firm right where it goes, and then put your screws in. All right, so we've got our tools here. Robbie's got a drill. He's going to actually pre-drill one of these holes just to make room for our saw blade to go in. And he's going to be using a one-handed sawzall with a jigsaw blade in it to cut around this template. Now we're going to stay to the inside edge, closest to the middle of the template, as he cuts through each one of these grooves all the way around. And when you're done, it's going to fall into the bag, and we're going to throw this part away. Start with drilling your hole. All right. And the key is you're going to want to make sure that whatever you're using, if it's something like this, that your base stays on your template and you follow that angle in which it's going to direct you to do. So as each part, you're following it and you're cutting it at that exact angle. You can go whichever direction you want. It doesn't matter which one.
Tight corner.
All right, so we'll do the other side as well and get a better angle so you can see all the cutting. All right, so now that it's cut, he's going to remove the tape. We're going to get a vacuum and clean up the debris. We'll vacuum again when we're done. All right, so now we're going to test fit our outer grill. Make sure that it fits well. Everything looks really good, so we're going to take our other part, put some silicone on it, and screw these together. All right, so at this point, I'm going to have Robbie go ahead and silicone the gasket on the inside. This is the underside of our grill, our cut kit. So he's going to silicone all the way around. That way when we're done, it's going to add some strength, and it's also going to keep water from getting in the bag if it rains. All right, so we've got our cut kit siliconed ready to go on, but we need to make sure that we go ahead and put our handle on, and then we get our screw in place before you put the cut kit in. Once you do that, you don't have access to put the screw back in. Now, some of the cut kits do not require this step. They have a place in the template that allows you to put it on with the handle still in place. All right, I'm going to stick the grill in from the other side. All right, if you want to feed that in. Little silicone on the end of the screwdriver for the one that goes way up in the hole. And if you get a little silicone on things, it's pretty easy to wipe it up when you're done. Just a paper towel will get it off. You don't want to over tighten them, but you should see the grill come pretty close to pulling all the way to the inside adapter. Oh, looks good. All right, we're going to go ahead and do just a little bit of silicone cleanup, and then we'll be ready to mount our speaker. All right, one extra step that I normally do when I'm installing it, and most of the speaker companies and the cut kits don't come with this. They're going to have a little bit of a gasket material on here, but we find that it doesn't seal it up enough to keep water out in the rain. So I go to a local hardware store, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, those kind of places, have a door gasket material. It's a little butyl rubber that I add to the outside of the speaker. Now you could do this with silicone, but if you silicone the speaker in and you remove it in the future, you may tear the surround on the speaker from that silicone. So they sell this little self-stick gasket, put it all the way around ahead of time, and that's going to seal it up more and allow you to ride in the rain without getting your jacket wet or whatever else you have inside the bag. You want to be careful and go on the outside of the surround so that you don't hinder at all the movement of the cone. All right, so we've got that ready. We're ready for you to put it in. All right, so Robbie's going to install our 6x9. He's going to make sure and put the terminals toward our cloth here, and we're going to run our wire around and right up to it. So he's going to start all 4 of the screws first. Now he's going ahead and using the screws that come with the Hertz speaker. All right, you're going to leave all of them a little loose till you find all 4 of the holes. You may have to move the speaker around as you see Robbie doing to be able to get your eyes where you can see it. All right, now that he's got them all started, he's going to go ahead and tighten them down. All right, they're all good and tight. All right, so at this point, we're ready to drill a hole and run the wiring. We're going to wait and go ahead and cut our other bag first, and we'll do all the wiring at once. All right, Robbie's going to go ahead and open up our other bag, go ahead and remove our screw from our handle. Go ahead and shut the lid and latch it first, and then all right, so now we're going to tape off the top of the bag. All right, Robbie's got the top of the lid taped up. Now we're going to put our template in place. All right, we're going to drill our starter hole for our saw.
I'll start on this one.
Okay, wherever you want to. Well, you can see the end shot here. Watch your finish cut. All right. We're going to get it cleaned up, vacuumed, untaped, and see how it fits. All right, so we've got our cut kit is siliconed, ready to go on. We vacuumed, we removed the tape, but don't forget to put the screw back in the handle. So Robbie's going to do that now, because once you've put this in place, you cannot access that screw. Don't ask us how we know. We might have done that at least once. He's going to get this screw put back in, then we'll continue forward. All right, I'm going to hold the grill here for Robbie as he puts the inside in. Don't get silicone on everything.
Trying my best too.
All right, we're tight. Now just a little bit of cleanup on this silicone. We'll mount our speaker and get to wiring. All right, so Robbie's ready to install the speaker. He's going to make sure that he puts our speaker terminals toward the middle of the bag. I'll start all 4 of the screws before you tighten them up. All right, so our 2 speakers are installed. Next step, we're going to go ahead and remove the bag. We're going to set over on our table. We're going to drill our hole for our wire to go in. All right, so with our kit, you're going to get some quick disconnect bag harnesses, and they're going to have a grommet on them. They're already made up. They already have the correct inch for our speaker. We're going to drill a hole right in here, just below where the latch is and just in front of where your front bolt goes that secures your bag. So we're going to drill a 3/4 inch hole right here. Three-quarters all the way through this bit. Yep, but don't let the drill hit the bag. All right, and there's our 3/4 inch hole. Then you're just going to feed the wires into the bag. Work the grommet in place. Now we have a nice watertight area for our wires running out of our bag. We're going to do the same thing on the other bag, and then we're going to reinstall them on the bike. We'll catch you back up showing you how to secure them inside the bag. All right, so we're at the point where we're going to route our wire over to our 6x9 and connect it. But first we're going to put some zip tie holders around the bag for wire management. So where we're going to put those at is here, here, and right where the wire is going to come up to the speaker. So Robbie, let's go ahead and clean those areas with a little alcohol. This is isopropyl rubbing alcohol. You want to clean the surface first so these will stick well. Let it fully dry.
Here.
A little lower.
Oh, here.
About there.
So right here.
A little closer to the corner. Yep, about in there. We'll do another one right in this area. Right under that lip.
Right here.
That's good. All right, so I want you to connect the speaker wires to the speaker. Now the purple are going to go on the right side, the green wires go on the left side. They also have a label on the other portion of our harness. One says belt side, the other one says brake side. So I want you to put the striped wire on the positive. Okay. That's not what we normally do, but when we're doing a backbone harness with a GTS radio, we're actually going to wire the rear speakers in what you would think is reverse polarity. So we found that Harley, in most of the time, in this case, they're going to actually have it backwards. If it was a tour pack, it's not backwards. Some zip ties. 3 zip ties. So I'm going to start right here. Put your first one there. One more up in that corner. Flush cut the zip ties. All right, so as you see, that makes the wire look a lot nicer, keeps it from being down in the bag. No risk of us actually messing it up as we put things in and out of our bag. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. And a green to negative, green with the black stripe to the positive. All right, so we have one more step. So we're going to plug this in, it's color coded, and connect it to our backbone harness. Do you want to? Oh, wait. All right, again, you'll see these are labeled. There's a side that says belt side and a side that says brake side. All right, this one plug in there. Okay, so at this point it would be playing. We're gonna go ahead and take some zip ties and secure this wiring in here, make it nice. Take the excess wire that's left and go down in front of the battery tray. So go ahead and take this wire and just secure it around this black wire here.
Okay.
Also going to take the purple wire and just go on up here to this ECM harness. Go around there. All right, so this excess wire, we're just going to stick down here in front of the battery. This way the seat's not really sitting on top of that connector. And one more thing I normally do, you could hide these wires behind each one of the side covers. We choose not to. If he goes in for service to get a tire, to get shocks, to get brakes, they're going to remove one of these bags. If they do so and they don't realize it's plugged in, they could just pull and tear up the harness. But I will go ahead and take some black Tessa tape and wrap the ends so it doesn't stand out as far as the colors before we put our seat on. So let's go ahead and we'll do that, and then we'll come back to putting the seat on. All right, so Robbie's going to go ahead and reinstall the seat, and then we're going to put a tour pack on.
Let's do it.
All right, Robbie's going to put the seat on.
Let's see here.
There's a big spring there. You don't want it to poke you. There you go. Bring it on back where it lines up here.
All right.
Slide the backrest in. I'll get the tour pack. Tour pack's on. All right, so the back is back together. We're going to come up front. We're going to go put our headlight in. We've already set all the settings on the amp. Now remember, when you get your kit, your amp's already going to have everything preset. Let's plug our headlight in first. I'm going to plug it in and bolt it in. Switch this harness up a little bit. Now you'll notice there's a little ear on each side that lines up with these vents.
Gotcha. Let's see here, just gotta move over some more. It's in front of where it goes.
All right. All right, you got the tool?
Got to go up a lot. Down the interesting.
All right. All right, we're in place. All right, so we're going to put this back on the back of the headlight like it was factory. It just snaps back in. All right, now we're ready to reassemble our outer fairing skin. All right, so we're going to put our fairing on, the outer fairing anyways. We're going to start with the screws that go next to each speaker. All right, now go ahead and plug in both of your side turn signal / marker lights. Ready? All right, let's go ahead and put this vent back in place. So what it does is this front is going to lip in here, and then it's going to just slide down, clip into those two clips. All right, you're going to want to start these 4 screws, but don't go all the way in because we're going to set our headlight in, or not our headlight, our windshield in place before we tighten them all the way down. All right, let's slide these washers out. We good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, so they're in. So now let's go ahead and tighten them down. Don't go too tight. They need to be tight enough that they don't work their way loose, but you definitely don't want to crack your windshield. Now let's go ahead and put our bolts in to hold our marker lights, one on each side. All right, so we're going to put our lower T25 torque screws in. There's one on each side of the fairing. All right, let's get our grills in place.
This one?
That's the other side. Now there's a little tab on your grill that's going to feed in first, and then it's going to drop in and clip into these 2 speed clips. Easy. Now these are the stock grills. You can definitely reuse them. We also offer what I think is a better looking grill that we actually can put the Hertz logos on for you since you're doing the full Hertz upgrade. So the bike's back together, fairings in place. We did our cut kits. You've watched an entire stage 4 Hertz install. Here in a second, I'm going to turn the bike on and we'll let you hear what it sounds like. And weather permitting, when the owner picks up the bike, we'll do a walk-away video and let you see just how loud and clear it is at a distance outside. Let's fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. All right, so here it is. We've got our Bluetooth connected. We're going to play some copyright-free music. I know you love it, but it's all that we can play and continue to be on YouTube. Robbie's done a great job. Thank you, Robbie, for helping me on this video. I hope it's helped you to listen to me walk somebody through it versus just telling you how that I would do it. But let's get to it and let's check out and see how loud this thing is. thing is loud, it is clear, it's got some very crisp highs, very tight mid bass, and it sounds amazing for keeping your stock radio in place. So as you can hear, it sounds wonderful, no DSP needed. We just flashed the radio correctly, put an awesome amp and some great speakers on it. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it encouraged you to maybe take on a project like this yourself. If this is seemingly outside of your wheelhouse and you want us to do it, you can definitely call us at 1-844-30-AUDIO. We can make you an appointment. If you decide to do this on your own, we have the best tech support that anybody has. Most of the time, you'll probably end up talking to me. So at least I've done it. Robbie's done it. Maybe we can get him on a tech call. I never know. Probably not. But I hope that it helped you. I hope it encouraged you. If you liked the video, please like it, share it with your friends. Definitely subscribe to the channel to see much more like this. Everything you see that we install, we have for sale on volunteeraudio.com. So go to volunteeraudio.com, call 1-844-30-AUDIO. There's two things that we love to talk about, motorcycle audio, and we'll talk to you about Jesus too. Thank you for watching. God bless. Have a good day. All right, so we've just finished up a Stage 4 Hertz package with a factory GTS radio, and here's a walkaway I just wanted to show you. This is the Hertz SX165 Neos and the SX690 Neos. As you see, we're very, very busy. Lots of messages coming through. Like I say, it's a 4-speaker factory radio. We did flash the radio, correct EQ curve. Hertz Neo 6.5-inch coaxials in the front, 6.9s in the back. Super loud, super clear. Most of what you're hearing is just the two fronts. So if you ever wonder, would two be enough? They're what's pointed at you. The 6.9s are pretty much pointed toward the front, a little up and a cut kit. So super loud, more than anybody normally needs. Walk a little further, try to beat this song. I'm afraid we're going to run out of songs before we run out of the music as we keep walking here. At this point, we're probably 70 yards. You see that little dot down there still making all this noise. Super loud, super clear. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it has impressed you. Hope it's given you the encouragement to do this yourself. And thank you for watching, and God bless.